Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we go to Kiowa County and catch up with the Kansas Agriculture and Rural Leadership Program as they were in Greensburg a few days ago. We'll talk with President Jill Zimmerman and meet the new Vice President, Susan Sankey. We also have features from the Kansas Soybean Commission and Kansas Department of Agriculture, and also our weekly updates from the Kansas Livestock Association and Paragon Ag Advisors. The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919, kfb.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com. In ag news, water right holders in Kansas soon will be expecting a familiar letter in the mail requiring them to submit a complete and accurate water use report to the Kansas Department of Agriculture, the Division of Water Resources. Now, this year's mailing will look a little different because starting with the 2018 water use reporting period, the KDA, Department of Water Resources, is implementing a $20 per water right paper filing fee for each water use report except those for domestic use when that report is submitted in paper. The $20 fee can be avoided by reporting water use online. That's recommended by the department. Now, this is the fifth year that online water use reporting has been available, and many water right holders have already taken advantage of that option. Online reporting allows water right holders to enter official annual water use reports online, then receive immediate feedback to help ensure that the report is accurate. It also provides access to other features as previous reports submitted online as well. KDA supports the cost of transition to online reporting as it will help the agency achieve long-term cost savings instead of implementing some online convenience fees. KDA has taken an entirely different approach and instead will charge a paper filing fee for water use reporting beginning with this 2018 water use reporting period. You can complete your online water use report at kswaterUseReport.org from January 2nd through March the 1st. Now, if you need help completing the report, visit or call any of the KDA DBWR field offices. And if you choose not to take advantage of the online water use report option, just send in that report by mail along with that paper filing fee. Well, the number of land auctions and sales in the grain belt picks up each year after completion of harvest, and farmers are wrapping up field work and then they can turn their attention to land sales. And at the same time, some sellers are wanting to complete the sale prior to the end of the year or the next cropping season. Now, this fall has been no exception, as Farmers National Company is seeing the uptick in the number of sales. Last year after harvest, sale prices for good quality farmland increased a small amount above the flatline trend. Now, exceptional good harvest yields added to the farmers' revenue beyond what they had anticipated, giving them a little more optimism for making some capital purchases of land. Also, there continued to be a lower supply than normal of high-quality farms for sale. That increased the competition, they say, for what did come to the market. Now, competitive bidding brought about the post-harvest bump in land prices that we saw last year. So what might we see in 2018 with post-harvest land sales? Well, generally, the grain belt experienced some pretty good to exceptional yields, except for areas hit by drought or too much rain this year. So good yields lend to higher gross revenues for producers despite low soybean prices this year. But this year is different than last in a number of important ways. For one, harvest has stretched out and is not complete for some due to the wet and the challenging weather. Secondly, soybean prices are being depressed by trade tariff issues, and no one knows for sure how long those effects of the tariffs will last. And finally, interest rates are slowly moving higher, and even though rates are still historically low for land mortgages, this has to be considered when making land purchases. Well, sickness and death loss in swine and horses has been reported in north central Kansas the past few weeks, that according to K-State Research and Extension. The problems have been traced to fumonisin in corn. Now, fumonisin, a mycotoxin associated with ear stalks rot in corn. The hot, dry conditions during the middle of the growing season, followed by this cool, moist weather during pollination and kernel formation, tend to favor development. It can also develop if stored in grain moisture content between 18 and 23%. Suspect corn in the toxicity cases did not appear discolored or abnormal. Now, the only way to determine fumonisin concentration is through a qualified lab test. Concentrations of concern are greater than 1 part per million in equine diets and greater than 10 parts per million in swine feed. The level of concern for cattle is unknown, but studies indicate that levels from 30 to 90 parts per million are safe. Now, some of the corn tested in north central Kansas had fumonisin levels greater than 100 parts per million and as high as 700 parts per million. So if you have questions, call your local extension office or veterinarian. More in a moment here on the Kansas Ag Report. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web, oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. And Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. More at ksgrainsorghum.org. Welcome back. We are in Kiowa County in Greensburg, where the Kansas Agriculture Rural Leadership recently held a seminar, and joining us now is the president of Carl, and that is Jill Zimmerman. Hi, Jill.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Been a while since you and I have talked on camera, but the next Carl class is underway. You've had a few of these now under your belt, just basically wrapping up the 2018 portion, and you're in Greensburg. Tell us why you chose to come here.
Well, we're just starting year 2, and so this is the first step in their journey of the seminars that we'll have in their second year. And you really choose Greensburg. Greensburg has a neat story to tell. And as we think about Carl and sharing our story and promoting agriculture in our communities and all the things that we do and experiences, this is a great place to start.
Well, it is. It's been one of those that has a lot of different stories to tell that could have kind of given up, but instead decided to really make something of themselves. And it really is something that people all around the country look at, not only Kansans, but everyone else, as somebody that really can define what they want to be.
You know, you're exactly right. It really took a tragedy. You know, it took a tragedy to cause that sense of, pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps and finding their grit to get to where they are today. And they've done a great job of that. And it's unfortunate in agriculture sometimes that and that was a theme that we talked about a lot this week, was getting pushed to that point that where we have to feel like we have to respond in such a way. And it's really, they've responded, then they've done a great job.
Tell us more about the Kansas Agriculture and Rural Leadership, not only this group, but what it's all about.
So Carl is a 2-year leadership experience for folks that are between the ages of 25 and 45. They commit to 52 days over those 2 years, and there'll be 10 in-state seminars in addition to Washington, D.C., and an overseas experience. And it's an opportunity to learn more about ourselves, to learn more about our communities, to learn more about agriculture, how we can make a difference and make our places better places to live.
And places like Greensburg, but you go to not only maybe some of the bigger, more populous places, but even communities like Greensburg.
Yeah, Greensburg, Norton, Pittsburgh. We travel all over the state over that course of those 2 years, and you know from your travels, there's a lot of awesome stories out in our rural communities. We went to Ashland Wednesday evening, and actually, the Gardner Ranch in Ashland, Kansas, they have another great story to tell and great people.
Folks want to be part of the Carl program, say they're in that age, or maybe they know somebody that might benefit or might be of a benefit to Kansas agriculture, how can they become involved?
Sure. We will be announcing our application process for Class 15 in the very near future. It'll be available online at carlprogram.com, but you also, get in touch with us, and we're happy to share the story and and talk about Carl.
It's Jill Zimmerman, who is the president of the Kansas Agriculture and Rural Leadership Organization. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. And AgView.net, covering news and views in the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt. Reliable and relevant, AgView.net. Welcome back to the Kansas Ag Report. We're now pleased to be joined by Susan Sankey, who is probably a familiar face with many folks. She has served in a couple capacities in Kansas, and now she is the vice president of CARL, Kansas Agriculture and Rural Leadership. Susan, congratulations on this position, and yet again another way to serve Kansas agriculture.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate it. And I'm glad to be here, and thanks for the opportunity to be part of CARL.
Okay, so let's talk about what your role will be with CARL.
I've been hired as a vice president for supporting CARL in helping to build the curriculum to be relevant, to maybe bring some support to Jill as the president, and creating a curriculum that's relevant and dynamic and what is needed by the class members to be impactful in their communities. And then also, very importantly, people invested in me when I was growing up and as becoming a professional, and it's important for us to invest in CARL so that we can create that to be the best experiences possible for the people who participate and for the communities that they live in.
CARL is a 501c3, so it's not only an opportunity if you want to contribute to something that way. And the reason why we're talking about this is you're in some opportunities, and as many folks know that have been through any sort of leadership experience, they're not, I guess you kind of get what you pay for, and there is some investment in this, but it probably pays off for the benefit of all in the state.
That's absolutely right. We need to have support so that we can be the best that we can be for the people of Kansas and for the CARL program. People invested in this organization early on. It is a nonprofit organization for the service to the people of Kansas and for rural communities in Kansas and for agriculture, and we need to tell that story and to support it.
So that story is being told. One of the things that curriculum, there are some challenges right now. When you look at agriculture, is that maybe the way you look at the curriculum, kind of trying to meet maybe the needs of any current situation as you go through the process? Is that kind of what you're looking at moving forward?
I think that's correct. There are a lot of different perspectives, and I think Jill and I and the board members and the class participants and even alumni, engaging all those people, coming together as a community for CARL, we really need to listen to people to find out what the right things are so that we can build a curriculum and actually grow on what's already been established and decide what's best for the organization for what the people need.
Been going on for well over 20 plus years, so let's tell folks how, if they want to become involved as a donor, supporter, maybe even a class participant, and to learn more about CARL, how can they do that? Well,
it's carlprogram.org, and we can also be reached in Umberger Hall. There's an office for the CARL program there on the K-State campus. They can also reach out to either me or Jill, any board member, any class member. Our contact information is located at that carlprogram.org. So I think that people can reach out to us anytime, and we're glad to meet with anybody and talk in more detail.
Okay. Probably somebody you'll see in your town. Susan Sankey, the new vice president of the Kansas Agriculture and Rural Leadership. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel, made from U.S. soybean oil.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Finding new uses for soy has grown the U.S. soybean industry from $11 billion to $41 billion in the last 25 years. That also is one of the Soybean Checkoff's main goals, to help U.S. soybean farmers leverage those new uses to become more profitable. That is Cropportunity. Without the crop soybean farmers produce, however, none of those opportunities would be possible. They help create and take advantage of opportunities in their areas. The Kansas Soybean Commission invests checkoff dollars into issues that are priorities for our state. It provides custom education, promotion, and research solutions for each opportunity in Kansas. Talk to a commissioner or visit kansassoybeans.org on the web for more information about the Commission's projects and priorities. A great way to learn from others is through shared experiences. Share your Cropportunity and see what other soybean farmers are discovering by using the Cropportunity hashtag on Twitter. Follow United Soy and KS Soybean for more about the Cropportunities on which the Soybean Checkoff is working to help make farmers more profitable. Cropportunity is out there. Every day the Checkoff makes progress toward discovering new ways to integrate soy products into different industries and building new markets, creating value and profit opportunities for soybean farmers.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel, made from U.S. soybean oil.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
In April, the Kansas legislature passed Senate Bill 263 to enact the Alternative Crop Research Act and charged the Kansas Department of Agriculture with implementing the Industrial Hemp Research Program. Beginning in November, KDA is accepting pre-applications and pre-application research proposals from individuals who are planning to participate in the Industrial Hemp Program in Kansas in 2019. The pre-application is voluntary, and it is not an application for a license. Anyone who plans to participate in the spring will still need to complete an application once they do become available. In the pre-application research proposal, potential growers, distributors, or processors will be asked to explain in detail the research they plan to conduct in their participation in the Industrial Hemp Research Program in Kansas. Those who submit a pre-application research proposal will have an opportunity for the advisory committee to informally review the research proposal to determine the likelihood of its approval when the regulations become effective. In addition, those who submit the pre-application will get direct notification as soon as the full research license application process is available. There is no fee requirement or record check requirement to submit this pre-application, although both will be required in the licensing step. Right now, the regulations that will guide the industrial hemp program in Kansas are in the approval process as outlined on KDA's industrial hemp webpage. A public hearing will be held soon, which will be one of the last steps prior to the adoption of the regulations. If you are planning to participate in the Kansas Industrial Hemp Research Program, whether as a grower, distributor, or processor, please go fill out the pre-application with a pre-application research proposal by December 1st. You'll find it, along with much more about the Industrial Hemp Research Program, at agriculture.ks.gov/industrialhemp.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News. A reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm and Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergents, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm and Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Members can have a voice in the policy process by providing input during business meetings at the KLA Convention November 28th through the 30th in Wichita. The KLA Stock Growers Council will consider a report proposing the Kansas legislature designate a single state agency to lead and coordinate wildfire suppression efforts and provide sufficient funding for this purpose. Council members also will look at legislation and state agency actions that would offer more protections against trespassers on private land next to the Arkansas River. During the Cattle Feeders Council meeting, NCBA's Kent Backus will provide an update on the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. Kevin Good with Cattle Facts will share his thoughts on the beef industry's position in the protein market. Dairy Council members will hear a report on immigration compliance and enforcement issues and receive an update on trade. Members of the KLA Animal Health and ID Committee will discuss acute interstitial pneumonia and other health issues in fed cattle and receive an update on animal disease control activities in Kansas. The Natural Resources Committee agenda will include a report from Kansas Department of Health and Environment officials on plans to force closure of livestock facility lagoons if the permit is expired or has not been properly maintained. The KLA Tax Committee will hear a report on federal tax reform and a panel discussion on the legislative potential for a constitutional amendment regarding regarding school finance. More convention information can be found on www.kla.org.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Good morning, I'm Darren Van Vactor with Paragon Ag. We are quickly approaching the holiday season. Corn and bean harvest is making steady progress and getting closer to completion nationwide. Wheat sowing has been slower than normal, but again is getting done. Lots of folks are trying to get field work done post-harvest and before the holidays. Corn demand has continued to impress while wheat and soybean has been lacking. We're seeing some basis improvement here and there, but nothing consistent at the moment. There are not typically a lot of major headlines during this time frame, but you have to keep looking forward. There's a ton of information coming out here over the next 3.5 months. We'll have some direction regarding the trade war with China, coincided by the determination of the second half of the Farmers Aid Package during the late November to December timeframe. January brings the USDA's final numbers for the 2018 row crop, and 2019 insurance prices will be set during February. All the while, a close eye should be on South American weather and production. You might be wondering why all this information is important. Just because we may be looking ahead to other things doesn't mean the market stops. Numbers and projections can change, news stories can happen, deals can be struck or struck down. The catch is we don't know any of these things, but we do know that they have the potential to move the market. We may not know what the market will do, but there are ways to protect against risk regardless of direction or the time of year. If you have questions, we'd be happy to help. Give us a call here at Paragon Ag Advisors, 888-452-8751. I'm Darren Van Vactor. Be safe and have a great week.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News. A reliable and relevant source, agview.net. Well, that's our show this week. Be social with us online at kansasagreport.org or on Facebook and Twitter. Kansas Ag Report also available as a podcast on castbox.fm. Search Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching the Kansas Ag Report. We'll see you next week.